AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
Hey, welcome everybody to our Saturday show where we invite Tony Clover to join us and we answer gun questions. So as the intro said there, you can go to askgunquestions.com and there's a form there. We're not looking for your email or any kind of, you don't have to sign up for nothing. You just ask a question you might have and we attempt to answer them here on the weekends. Bring in Tony Simon from New Jersey and Clover from Texas. I'm out here in Arizona. Thanks, guys, for jumping in. Actually, I think you literally jumped in at the same time today. So since it's been a while since Clover, I'll say Clover first. Hey, welcome back. And I want to introduce your deal and what's going on in Texas.
Good to be here. The only thing really going on in Texas right now is some blathering going on by people that don't live in the state of Texas over an issue or a bill, rather, that came out of committee that is an anti-2A, anti-gun bill, no doubt about that. But that would restrict firearm sales to certain firearm sales, would restrict 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And, you know, same old people that beat the drums are beating that drum and really don't have a clue. But it's ultimately doomed either way. Absolute worst case scenario is it goes all the way through, it gets signed, and the courts strike it down just like they have all across the country and already with the constitutional carry restriction that we had on 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And we knew going in that was going to happen. And so that's why we didn't really raise a big fuss. We always look for that incremental change. And it's like, you know, we don't allow, a lot of folks will see that things as a poison pill and it's an all or nothing. And they're like, oh, it's got that, I'm not voting for it. And it's like, you know, you got to weigh things out. Is it something you can change later down the road? Is it something that, you know, the courts are going to strike down? Is it something that is not going to be enforced? And right now with constitutional carry, 18, 19, 20-year-olds can carry. I mean, there's law enforcement in the state of Texas cannot enforce that. So, you know, absolute worst case, it like I said, that's what happens. But if you backtrack, there's almost no way the governor signs that if you know that bill does get through. He's going to veto it, and our Senate does not have the margins to override a veto. So you've got that. But I think it was more a play to, you know, run out the clock. I think they picked one of the worst bills on purpose and kind of let it through to tie it up on the House floor and everything else and run out the clock. Just political gamesmanship in the state of Texas. So as far as 2A, that's kind of what's been going on as far as 2A. Of course, this is Ask Gun Questions. I don't have a whole lot in that realm. Been getting a lot of gear and different things in. The podcast season ended that Thursday was the last episode of the early 23 season. So going to be getting back on that. So there will be more content with all the pew pews and other goodies coming to the channel soon.
Right on. And then we got Tony joining in from New Jersey, and you got a lot going on. What's happening on your end of the internet here?
Well, had a lot going on. Some plans changed. We've delayed the Great Plains Diversity Shoot Expedition. Wasn't coming together as quickly or like I wanted to. So we threw a flag on the play, pushed pause, and stuck a pin in it for right now. I am also starting the 501c3, which will also help make it easier to raise funds, especially from the industry, to be able to pull off things like this with a better efficiency. So that's what I'm doing. I hosted a diversity shoot Thursday night, and I have another one this coming Thursday. Both in New Jersey. It was really great. One was a gun for hire range. We had a great time, and the next one is going to be at Recoil Range. I also have Kevin Dixie Train and Learn coming up, so I'm still doing fundraisers to help with that trip, to get out there and actually participate in some networking and some learning, because we deal. I don't know if many people know about the Ambassador Academy down in Mueller, but it is not another one of those industry like workshops where you go there and learn a lot of different things about advocacy, how to set it up, how to run it, how to grow your business, and also firearms related first aid stuff and self defense stuff. So it's like power packed, a few days of training. Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn is the same thing. And that's what I'll be participating in over the Memorial Day weekend. So that's what I've been up to. And I also shot in what the Harry heck did I call it? Uh, a pistol
something.
Yeah, I think it's called PCC, Police Combat Course. And it's the old school police qualification that they have to shoot. And we hosted that. That was hosted at the Old Bridge Rifle Pistol Club in Jersey. And it was a lot of fun. I think I did pretty well. The thing has grown because of the number of people now that are getting into competition shooting. It's kind of a new thing for a lot of people because we had this huge increase in gun owners, and people are looking for things to do with them. They spend a lot of money on them, and now they want to play. They want to use them besides for something of waiting for the apocalypse or worst case scenario, or only using them for self-defense. So a lot of people are taking classes and they're entering competitions with the guns they purchased for self-defense, and we're seeing that. I've noticed it because I just got involved in November shooting competition, and I've noticed an up ramp of people doing it even in the small time I've been there. So that's what I'm up to. That's what I have been up to, and I'm glad to be on the show.
Right on. Well, you guys brought up all kinds of interesting stuff to talk about, but we do have the actual questions that have come in. We haven't checked them for a while. So let's see. Well, I guess it's been a while. We got the last question that came in on the 30th. So it's a real question. Thinking about buying a Colt 1911 38 Super. Just wondering how much they go for. Has anybody seen one at a shop recently?
I haven't seen one. I mean, I have a friend that builds them, and we're still talking $2,500 pretty much. At least it was pre-COVID the last time I spoke to him that he'd build you one, and that's about what they cost.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Anything, just about anything in 38 Super is going to be probably 1,500 on up, and I'm talking not even Colt. That's anything.
And why is that? All kinds of extra parts, and you can't just grab stuff off the shelf as much, or it's the fitting, or some other thing?
I think it's demand, I think, is one. I mean, you're really super niche with that. And then yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, I think. They just don't produce nearly as many things in 38 Super anymore as they once used to. At least not that are imported, into the country, built here or imported into here. And then that's another thing too, is 38 Super is 38 Super because of the international market more than the US market. And if a company is building, and again, we're talking non-Colt, and the question was specifically Colt, but if there's a company out there building in another country, building 38 Super, again, it gets back into the market, right? A lot of people, they want what they want, and I get it. They're like, I want this or I want that. And it's like, well, there's got to be a market big enough to warrant all the hoops that has to go through. I mean, you can create some widget, and that's all cool, and that's not that big of a deal. But with firearms in particular, a lot of the hoops you have to go through with regulations and other things, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Sometimes it's not worth the what little bit of a trickle of demand is out there.
So yeah, I would say the other thing is that that's a caliber that it's not like a practical or competition caliber. So that lends itself to like fancy guns, barbecue guns, and engraved guns, and presentations, commemorative guns. So a whole pile of them are right away super expensive because of their engraving or their presentation or their significance or something. Especially the Colts, because if you're going to engrave something up, you're going to engrave up a Colt.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of companies that make budget guns, or guns that aren't known to be, companies that aren't known to make 1911s. Like, I mean, Rock Island, T-Sauce, Versant, like they make 1911s, but if you're gonna dump some money into having one customized, having one engraved, having, all that work done, yeah, you'll probably do a Colt and maybe a Smith & Wesson. I mean, if you talk about name brands, you're going to dump money in to have work. I mean, that kind of work done. That's not even about functionality, but beautification. You probably aren't going to do. You're probably going to look for Colt specifically.
Let's see. So then the next one, and if anybody wants to ask questions, feel free. Or if you want to ask, if you answer part of that question, feel free. It's a conversation we're having here. So we do have some people joining us live. Mike White was out there when we first started it. I didn't know what time to start the show. Clover had said something about having limited time, so I kind of moved the time an hour early without telling anybody, and then kind of settled on the half-hour mark. But thanks, Mike White, for hanging out there. 500 Magnum joined us. T3 is out there. And I don't know if anybody else is out there because you haven't said nothing. So, assuming that question is done, we'll move to the next one. Came in on the 4th of this month, so we're pretty caught up. I got a Taurus G3, and when I try to rack one into the head, it gets stuck, and they have to force it to go into the head. What are they? Who the hell calls the chamber the head? Is that a regional thing, or is that something else I'm missing? Is that a new kids thing?
Never heard of that. Yeah, never.
Is that a boat thing? Is it from the Navy? I can't.
No. I mean, if you was talking about the bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of like where maybe anyway. If it came from like a big gun or what, or it's just like something the kids are saying maybe.
Hey, listen,
Well, first off, it's a dumb way to
go.
go. Yeah, the technology, the terminology, right, would be chamber, I guess, or into the barrel. Doesn't really matter. We're not trying to grade you. It's just I'm never heard that before, so I'm trying to figure out where it came from. Anyway, there's a million answers to that one. So basically, they've got one when they rack the slide should go forward on a semi-automatic. Strip one from the magazine, slide up through the mag ramps and into the put the round into the chamber, and then everything should be head spaced, set up. Everything should be nice, and it should set right in there. The extractor should come along and grab the rim, and it should just sit there with the firing pin back on a G3. What is that, striker fire, or is that a real hammer? So either way, the firing pin is back, waiting for the I guess under tension, then waiting for the trigger to let go of the sear or something to let the striker go forward and then hit that firing pin. So something's disrupting that somewhere. What do you guys think on a Taurus G3? That's a gun I would not be able to pick it out on a table. If you gave me $100 and said, here's 3 Tauruses, which one's the G3? I'd have the same ratio as a monkey or something. I have no idea which one a G3 is. So you guys know something specific about this one? It's got a high bore axis, low bore axis, something?
Let's get it right. It's Tori when you're talking multiple. It's Tori, not Taurus. Okay. No, I don't know anything specific about it. I think Clover probably have dealt with him. He said G2s, right? Or G3s?
3.
I mean, I've heard a lot of influencers talking about them. I haven't fondled them other than taking some pictures of them at the show, so I don't know anything about it. I know their QC sometimes is hit or miss depending on what's going on with Taurus, but it should pick up and chamber around for something like that. I mean, is it every magazine that happens in? That's a question. Might be
Yeah,
some
like-
of them at magazine feed lips.
And pretty much every gun nowadays comes with like at least 3, right?
Well,
Not some budget stuff, right?
yeah, correct. Yeah, I know a lot of stuff that only comes with one even.
You think if you went to a range and you said, like a rental range, and you said, I'm having try to diagnose something, can I borrow a magazine from the rental? You think they would let you borrow the magazine? I'm
I
pretty
think
sure every place I've been to would probably
local
go,
gun
yeah.
shop here, the local gun shop here would, if they had a used model or if they had a used magazine sitting around or in the back, they would absolutely just hand you one and say, hey, if it works, come back and pay for it, or
Yeah,
if it
exactly.
don't work, bring it back, whatever.
Yeah,
That,
maybe
that's
swap it or something. Let's take a look at the other one. Let's compare them. But yeah, I'm sure they're going to be like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a new one, that's
Yeah.
unrealistic, but
So
a used one, sure.
So I don't know of anything specific to the G3 with that problem. Now that being said, that's a very common problem on pretty much, and can happen on pretty much any semi-automatic handgun out there, right?
Mhm.
Basically, it's not going into battery, I guess, is what I'm getting. So you got to look at a few things. I mean, the ammunition that you're using. If it's just over and over and over and over again, that's something that you got to look at. If whoever is making that ammunition, it's not major brand, major box store purchased, ammunition, then it could be a situation where their sizing is off. How old is the firearm? That's another thing, because people will get brand new ones and they'll leave and I do this for T&E purposes, but it's for T&E purposes, right? But they'll buy one, take it straight out of the box, load it up, and go out and start to shoot it. And the grease and the goop that they got on there is for preservation. It's not for it to run properly. So, your new firearm really needs to be cleaned and lubricated very well before you go with it. Plus, you've got an issue where springs need to be worked back and forth and loosened up a little bit too, right? It takes time. So you've got that aspect of things. So any little thing that causes drag, friction, or resistance with that slide moving back and forward, or pulling that round out of the magazine or up the feed ramp, right? Again, creates drag, friction, and or resistance, is going to slow that slide down. Is going to cause an issue where it's not going into battery. So make sure everything's cleaned and lubricated. Make sure that you've really worked that spring. You can drop the magazine, empty firearm, and just work that slide back and forth multiple times. Again, well cleaned and lubricated, of course. Next thing is to check. I've seen feed ramp issues. We don't know if this is a used firearm. There's a lot of things we don't know. Keeping that feed ramp nice and clean and polished, making sure there's no burrs or weird things going on. Typically, ball ammunition is less apt to do what he's talking about than is a more flat-nosed ammunition, whether that's a solid flat point or it's some type of a hollow point. Which, if you look at a cross section of a hollow point, the nose is flat; it's not rounded off in most cases. So, that can sometimes, with a dirty feed ramp, cause issues. Maybe there's grit, nasty, something like that in the chamber itself. That could even be a problem that's causing a drag. So again, proper cleaning and lubrication and stuff like that would potentially solve that. So, unfortunately, that's a question not really specific to the G3, which is what I just said earlier. That could have um, a lot of different fixes for it. Odds are it's probably not anything major. It's something that I just talked about.
100%. Just take your time, work your way through it systematically before you dump a bunch of money into it. Also, you might want to try to find it on your own, and then if you can find it, pay to have a gunsmith check it out. Only because I hear the turnaround time for sending something like that back to tourists can be as long as 6 months.
Yeah, it kind of depends on demand and load at any particular time of the year, but absolutely.
And I asked that because sometimes there's like models or I set it up like that because I think there's sometimes models that'll have issues that are like inherent or like known, but it doesn't sound like that's one of them. All right, so the next one is best handgun to get for a guy's first gun. I feel like that's a sexist statement.
What was? Read it again. What was the question?
You know how people ask, what's the best gun to get for a girl? What's the best gun to get for a dude?
Wow, that's super open-ended, right?
It's super
Oh,
sexist. That's it.
no, it's really easy to answer something like that. To me, something with a really long double action trigger pull and 40 Smith and Wesson and subcompact. That way, you get all of your bad decisions out of the way early in the gun purchasing arc of your career, and then you can pick something that makes sense later on. But I'm just being silly.
I'm gonna say for a first-time gun owner, a snub-nosed revolver.
Definitely, probably in 4.54 Casull.
No, just in 38 or 357 and shoot 38s. But for real life, nobody's out there practicing all the stuff you got to do to be good at an auto, unless you like it and then go nuts. But real life, people aren't carrying around giant guns unless they like it. And if you like it, go nuts. And in real life, people ain't buying holsters all over the time because they got nothing else to do with spend their money on. But if you love it, go nuts with that. But in reality, a 357 in your pocket, it makes the world a better place. And you can just keep it in your pocket. Everybody's happy. And once you get used to it, so all you do is sacrifice one pocket of your life, and anybody can buy pants that have a pocket or figure out how to get a 357 or 338 on you. So people act like, oh, that's advice just for women. I think it's pretty good advice. If it's not that, it's a Glock 19.
I mean, to me, it depends on what you use it for. People get a gun for different reasons, but under the assumption that you're getting something to carry.
Oh, that's a great point.
And if you want something to carry is one thing. If you want something for home defense is another thing. If you just want to own a gun, because some people that they don't think more deeper than that. Yeah, I just want to own a gun, maybe go to the range every now and again. Then that's a different firearm too. But yeah, one of the pretty much golden standard for telling someone to start that would cover all three of those things I just said would be a Glock 19, because of all the options that are available, because it's such a popular firearm. It's not too big to carry. It's lightweight, and you have holsters for it. You have every accessory for it, and you can actually put one together yourself out of Glock parts or non-Glock parts. So that's why that gun is so popular, and that's I don't think you can really go wrong unless you can't operate it because of some physical condition you have. Like it makes it difficult for you to use something that you have to rack a slide. And then you can go back to revolver for something like that, or even something like the Beretta Tomcat with the pop-up barrel, but that's just getting into the weeds, being different to be different. What about you, Clover?
I've got nothing much to say about all that. It's way too open-ended, I'm inclined to say go buy whatever tickles your fancy and you're excited about buying, and take it from there, because
exactly. Plus, if you
not
think
going to
you're only
learn
buying one gun, come on.
You're not going to learn any other way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I get comments like that occasionally on some videos, and I'm tickled that somebody new is coming to the realization of, and it's usually I just want a gun for around the house, and it's like I'm only gonna get one, and I'm settling on choosing this one, and it's like I appreciate that, and I appreciate they're coming into the fold and in the community, and they're taking that responsibility and all the things that go along with that. But at the same time, that concept is so freaking foreign to me. Like how can you get one? Like you don't have one car your entire lifetime. I mean, odds are there are a few people out there, right? But typically, something's going to happen. You're going to get tired of it. A newer model's going to come along. You change.
Or you understand that if your family gets bigger, you're getting a new car. If you decide to go camping in the mountains every weekend, you're getting a different car or a second car. If you like to go on like races or something, like road trips or something, you're going to get a different car, or you're right, like that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, and same works with
one. Or like I like one kind of pizza, therefore I'll never try another pizza. Come on.
Yeah. So, and it sounds funny when I say that. Just get whatever tickles your fancy. But here's the thing too: you got to be fairly excited about a firearm purchase. I mean, come on. Who walks in and just buy something that they don't find aesthetically appealing, or it doesn't feel good in their hands, or
9mm
it's a
shooters.
caliber maybe they're unsure of. I was getting to that, G Webs, if you'll let me finish. It's a caliber they're unsure of, or whatever. Like, there's got to be things you like about that, even though your knowledge, your education on firearms may be super limited, right? Sometimes it looks cool. It's like, buy it, and if you don't like it, well, flip it or whatever. Take it back in and trade it in, and go with something else. It's not, I get that some, and I say that with reservation because Tony knows this all too well. There's some places in the country you can't do that. But the vast majority you can. So just know your laws and regulations, what you can and can't do. And most of us have a little bit of flexibility and the freedom in that
Yeah,
area.
and if you don't have that ability, you realize that a lot of places do and get pissed and fight for the chance to be able to do that.
Ah, great point. Yeah, get involved on another level. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
But you've got friends, family, you got rentals. You know what I mean? You've got lots of ways that you can, especially if you become a part of the community. First and foremost, you can become a part of the community and not own a firearm. And odds are, if you become a part of the community and even if you join up at a range and you just go out there and watch and talk with people, eventually somebody's going to let you shoot this, that, or the other, or experience different things, and you haven't had to spend one dime except for some range fees.
Or you can come to the diversity shoots and you can shoot a bunch of different guns.
Well
For
played.
a low fee
Well
of
played.
$20. Because we actually have that happen with us a lot. Because when someone's asking that question, this is their first entry into us. And by experience, we all know when they ask that question, it's like, okay, they're brand new because they don't even know how open ended what they ask is. And you're right.
Good point. You can tell from the question.
Yeah. Like, so, okay, cool. And yeah, you're probably going to get more guns if you use this gun. If you look at this gun as something you stick in your sock drawer and then never see again, yeah, that may be your only gun purchase. But if you go to the range, if you visit the range, if you hang out there and make friends there, or at least acquaintances, to learn more about this new thing you've bought into your house, yeah, you're probably going to end up with more than one gun because you're going to learn that some things have missions. Some things are work for better purposes than others, and you're going to learn that. But yeah, we know that's your first time, and we want to give you good advice, but there has to be follow-up questions. Anybody were in there where if somebody just tells you get a Glock 19, and that's all, when you say what kind of gun should I get? Should it be my first gun? They look at you and go Glock 19. They could either know what they're talking about and just not want to put in the effort, or they don't know what they're talking about and that's all they got.
Yeah, when the question is asked, what firearm should I purchase, right? And like there's really there's no specific caveats, not for this purpose or in this caliber or in this size or in this type. It's not, there's no specificity to the question. I'm not saying be skeptical, but that's not the word, but definitely take the answers you get with a grain of salt, because understand without even with specificity to the question, you're dealing with a lot of opinion.
Mm-hmm. And if you're new to it, the person that's been in the whole thing for a month seems like a subject matter expert to you. And you have to understand, you may be talking to someone that just bought their first gun and it was a Glock 19 because it was on sale.
Bro, I know people that have legit never once pulled the trigger, experienced any other type of firearm other than what they've got in that particular, whatever it might be, right? That are highly opinionated. What they've got is the best in the world. You will never convince them otherwise. They will tell anybody and everybody, go buy this. And they have literally zero. I know people like this. They have zero experience with anything else other than reading or watching a YouTube video. Let me back that up. Other than reading an article or something and watching a YouTube video. Never once have laid hands on anything else other than what they've got. And you got to realize that there's people that do that because they're not experienced, right? In a variety of things, and they don't see all the different options that are out there, and they don't see that it's very subjective and there's a lot of opinion involved in it. Because they're not to that level, they want to make themselves look to that level by throwing down, what is the word? Absolutes, right?
Definitely. And you got to be aware of it. I mean, since they ask, and I don't know whose name this is, I haven't looked at it, but since you ask, yes, you have to be aware of false. I was going to say false prophets, but
And that's not to say what they're recommending is not a good firearm, right?
no.
I'm just saying their perspective, perception, and experience is solely based 100% in that firearm, whereas mine is based in thousands of that particular type. My opinion is going to be much, much more broadly based than theirs. And that's not to say their option is bad, but that's what I'm saying. You've got to take it with a grain of salt.
Non-personal, understand that, yeah, everything Clover said, dude. And that's in every hobby. I mean, that's every hobby. Somebody's going to say this is the best, whether it's cigars, whether it's bourbon, whether it's cars, whether it's knives. It's going to be that. So asking the questions cool. The more you learn, the better off you are. Hold off a little bit, in my opinion, until you rent some guns or shoot a significant number of guns, or even really kind of figure out what's your purpose of this thing. What's your purpose behind buying it? Why do you want one? All right, cool. That'll narrow down what you try out. All right, what's your price range? What's your availability of ammo? Depends on your locations. You're not going to find 454 Casull in a gun shop right outside of Newark, New Jersey. But you might find it in places where handgun hunting is a thing, or large dangerous animals are a thing. One of my guys bought a 444 Magnum, Marlin, and he's like, "Where do you find ammo for this?" Not in Jersey, dog. You're gonna have to order that online. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and there's shops that if they don't get a lot of hunters, even if they're in the hunting area, they're not going to have it either. And big box stores aren't going to necessarily have just whatever.
So it's a whole world you stepped into. Welcome to it. You got a lot to learn.
All right. So the next question came in on the 9th, and it's less sexist. Does blank ammo damage a shotgun in any way? I think it damages its self-esteem.
What happened? Everybody went quiet.
It's because I'm laughing.
Damn, I went to go see what's going on out the front door. I didn't realize everybody's going to sit in silence.
Oh, dude, I just started laughing thinking about a shotgun sitting in the corner, all forlorn. They only load me with blanks.
But essentially, a blank, especially in a shotgun, is just going to be a paper wad or something, and then some powder and a primer. So it's going to get it dirty, but probably no dirtier than a bunch of shot going down it. It's going to have less powder than a regular shotgun shell, more than likely. So it's still dangerous. So it's going to throw something out the barrel that held the thing together, and that is going to be moving pretty fast and be super hot. But
I missed the question.
Oh, does blank ammunition damage a shotgun in any way?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. Oh, the answer is no. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was
trying to
still
think of
laughing.
like how maybe a semi-auto or something like could get filthy or something. I've never heard of anything like.
It's be dirty though. If you're maintaining and cleaning your stuff when it gets dirty, it's not a problem.
Yeah, but it'll be dirty in only what though.
So I don't think if anybody's had that issue, no. But again, blanks are not necessarily
trying to think about blank shotgun ammo though.
I've never seen, but that doesn't
I've
mean
never
it doesn't
seen any, and
exist.
I don't know
Oh,
how
I've
they
got
get.
tons of it. I got tons of it. This one gun shop went out of business one time, and they were selling everything, and it's that kind of stuff that never sells. So I was buying it for like a
So have you
quarter a
looked at
box
it?
or something.
So how do they achieve enough pressure for it to do anything?
It just makes noise. It's just like I say, it's just a paper
okay.
wad with some
Makes sense.
powder,
Gotcha.
right? And then
Okay.
a primer.
Okay.
So it's louder than a primer, but it's just
Gotcha.
a paper piece of paper goes out there. It's possible that if you shot like hundreds of them out of some barrel, like eventually the paper would get clogged in there, maybe, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but I think on a semi-auto, I don't know every kind of semi-auto shotgun. It's possible that something about shooting a blank could clog up something in a semi-auto.
So it's almost assuredly the case that in a semi-auto, a blank is not going to cycle it.
Oh
There's
yeah,
not gonna be
no.
enough pressure.
As far as that, no. Yeah, you're gonna have to.
No.
So
you're gonna have to.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And because it and
Unless
here's
it's
another
inertia,
thing.
and even then, no, I can't see.
So there could be enough pressure. And this is again not going to hurt the shotgun. There could be enough pressure that it wedges the shell when it expands into the chamber, but not enough pressure to extract it. In which case you would have to use a dowel rod or something to actually knock the old shell out. That's a possibility. But again, you're not talking about anything that's damaging anything at all.
No, and we're talking about something that's super uncommon. I can't imagine anything. Maybe for some kind of, mostly probably for bird management or some kind of wildlife control to scare stuff or get stuff moving, crops or something. But usually you're shooting something out of there anyway. Because blanks alone aren't going to bother birds up in a tree. They're just going to be like, hey, look at that human down there making noise. You got to have something up in the tree making noise. So most of that stuff, like I say, it doesn't. But anyway, blanks are probably just for ceremonies and maybe movies or something. I can't imagine using them in movies. They're pretty dangerous. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's almost all CGI nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. When you can go click a button in Photoshop or whatever, why bother with any kind of pyrotechnic? And then the last one that came in was for Clover specifically, but I think we're allowed to answer it. Which is the best Ninja Turtle?
Interesting. Pop culture. Michelangelo, I would say, is going to be the pop culture answer to that, almost assuredly. I've always favored Donatello, and then probably maybe Leonardo next. But Donatello was kind of always the brain. He was always kind of tinkering with things, which I liked, and so he was top tier for me.
Do you have a preference, Tony?
The best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Oh, which one's your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Which question was it?
It's what's the best. So I guess it's subjective.
What's the best? I never thought of it that way, but I'll go ahead and say I'll say the Pink Power Ranger.
Ouch. That's like one of them Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars.
Awesome. I like it.
I get it though, because Power Rangers are pretty lame, but the thing is, people that were paying attention to comic book back in the olden days realized that Ninja Turtles were super violent and cool, like black and white comic alternative to the regular comics, and then they turned into this like crazy 180 and became like a kid's cartoon. So it's really weird. But I always liked the Chaco guy myself, so but I don't like how they made him the most popular one, because he used to just be the one that was not as, he had like less superpower than the others, right? But it's because of the nunchucks that I like them. But I definitely like all of them. And I don't know if there is a better one. That's the whole point of it too, is it's a team, right?
Well,
yeah.
Raphael. So Raphael was more the angrier one. Michelangelo was more the fun one. Leonardo was more the leader one, and Donatello was more the smart one. That's kind of how the breakdown went with them. Just for
I mean, there's 5 pieces, but those guys were 4 of the 5 things. So yeah, you got your, I think, what are they missing? Heart, probably Splinter or something. But yeah, then that's where Power Rangers and all them just are similar versions of it, but they got weird and started dancing around in tights and stuff. Ninja Turtles at least had the decency to run around with just ninja stuff. But
Heroes in a Half Shell, yeah.
what
Truthfully,
about which is your favorite of the movies, including the cartoons? Because we all know the movies have the kind of campy whatever history, but the cartoons go from lame to really, really cool. I don't know if you've all seen the cartoons or if anybody has a favorite TMNT thing, franchise, or whatever it's called.
I haven't watched any modern stuff, so the cartoons, my experiences from way back in the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, there's a TMNT versus
And I
Batman.
don't.
There's one
Oh,
that's
really?
TMNT. Oh yeah, and it's awesome. I don't know if you watch the new Batman cartoons, but Batman has been stellar cartoons always, and the movie length cartoons are crazy good. They're really violent and like for adults. They're not for kids or nothing, and they're not anime either. They're just regular superhero stuff. But anyhow, the TMNT one, you know, they have a thing with Batman. Then they've got one where the different versions of TMNT come together, the old black and white ones and the weird kids ones and the new ones and all of them. It's like a multiverse type of thing. So there's some pretty interesting ones. They're more than just long episodes of the cartoon or anything like that. It's definitely not the kids, you know, what do they call it? TV cartoon. They're more of trying to play around with the movies. Some of them are really bad. Anyway, I was just wondering if you guys had seen them. Like I said, there's some really neat ones. Where does Krabby Turtle fit into all of this? Oh, interesting. Interesting. Think about that. Oh, we don't have to keep going on TMNT. That was the last question, unless you guys got anything else to chat about with TMNT.
No, it was just not my thing. I love the cartoons because they were fun. That was it though. The movies came out, they were all right in my book, but I never got caught up in it. Maybe I was slightly too old for it, you know, to get caught up into that. But I was the kid that was the right age to get caught up in the G.I. Joe thing. And I think that came a few years prior to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
For me, it was like Star Wars figures were awesome, and then they came out with G.I. Joes, like right when Star Wars figures were getting to be a little bit lame. Then they're like, well, what if we made them into G.I. Joes and now you could drag around in like motorcycles and dune buggies with guns? And I'm like, well, all right, I guess I'll play with G.I. Joes for a little while. But that didn't last very long.
Yeah, that lasted long enough for me to try to become one.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that did. It was just like, well, it worked really well right before Rambo. Well played. Well played. Well, we had that Platoon and then Rambo. So we had the transition from here's what your parents did. Now here's what you can do. Anyhow, so we got a question out there. Magnum 500 Magnum says, I like the 1911 and it's a ZDC. I like the 15 round magazine. How can you carry it without so much printing, with the exception of a trench coat?
What, carrying a what?
15 round magazine for a 1911. Does that extend? What is a 1911 normally? 8 rounds?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a 10 rounder. Heck, I had it last night at the event. You can, but you have to definitely dress around it. Trench coat not necessary, but a shirt with a whole lot of drape on it. Maybe something you carry like you got you got to have the belt, sturdy belt, good holster, and then you're gonna have to layer clothes over that thing.
Yeah, patterns in clothing can help get rid of lumps and stuff. But you don't need to carry the 15 round mag. If you're carrying around a mag that's super long and a full size gun, there's not really a point. You're not expecting to get an extended gun battle. If you are, you're carrying the wrong stuff. You need a carbine. So if you're just walking around being normal and you want to carry around an extra mag that's bigger, carry around an extra mag that's bigger. Don't keep it in the gun. And then you can always go to it if you really need to. And I can understand the concept, but I don't understand carrying it in there. You don't need it all the time.
I would have a little concern, honestly. 1911s were not designed for pressure and other things of that 15 round magazine in the spring, right? And so I would have a little bit of hesitation for EDC thinking that what will that however slight the odds might be of a malfunction in 1911 and 1911s. Let's be honest, 1911s can have malfunctions.
And how do you induce a malfunction in a gun that's known to have them? By changing a variable. And how do you change a variable? By cramming twice as many rounds into the magazine. Like Clover said, you don't just magically have physics that lets a spring
Also-
offer the same amount of pressure. It's going to
Also-
push hard and then push a little bit.
Well, also what you're doing when you change the magazine is you're messing with the thing that causes 90% of the problems with the gun in the first place.
That's just
So
true.
so you're already messing with something that, all right, let's be, because I've carried a 1911 as an EDC. I'm not sure Clover has.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
I have.
I carried a
Mhm.
double stack. But
you
yeah,
carried a double
Carried
set.
a regular old
Warthog.
1911.
Warthog. Yeah, I carried a Warthog.
Yeah, I carried GI. You go with the original mag. You want to introduce as few variables as possible from the original. Because once you start messing with it, it is not the thing that won 2 World Wars. It is the thing that might have won with an extended mag, might have won your local IPC competition or local, shooting competitions. But understand, your life is not on the line when you're shooting those competitions, but when you're carrying it as an EDC, it may be.
Yeah.
So you want, 1, dependability.
Yeah.
2, you want to be able to get that thing out when you need it out. And with an extended mag, it's just one more thing to catch on clothing. Nothing says you're going to be standing ready to deliver with your feet spread and your ability to draw as quickly as you can at the range with a t-shirt on. You may be layered up. You may be in a compromised position, and you really don't want your firearm to be the thing that hinders you from getting it into action.
Yeah.
So beware of adding extra things to your gun because they may get you killed in the streets. Who did I use? Coleon Noir did an interview with a gentleman that had to actually defend himself with his EDC. He had a red dot on it, and his red dot caught on his sweatshirt because when he practices at the range, he only practices with the t-shirts that he usually wears. He was wearing a hoodie. He tried to get it out, and his red dot hung up on his hoodie and compromised his grip and everything else.
Train the way you fight.
Yeah, this is not a game. This is real, and you have to handle it like it's real. And I've taken classes with guys that take an EDC class or a concealed carry class and show up with a full-size fighting pistol and a drop leg holster. I'm like, is that how you carry your gun? Because I got an inside waistband Glock 19, and that's how I'm running it in this class because I want to be able to operate under a stressor, shoot and move. This is the clothing I wear. So you have to be aware, and you have to understand that the people that you enjoy watching on YouTube and other things like that, some of that is entertainment. And unless you test fire it, you test this thing under a stressor, you really don't know. So add very little as possible to, as few variables as possible to failure. Try to keep it in the original way it was. If it's the regular Glock 19, not Glock 19, 1911, then maybe Wilson Combat mags that are 8 rounds and 45, and that's it. You don't want to extend too far past it because it makes it harder to cover up. And a lot of those have rubber butt plates on it, right? Rubber plates on it that may hang up on your clothes and grab your clothing too. And again, compromise your master grip when you're getting it out. Just my 2 cents on something like that. Oh, and run a lot of rounds through it. Because last night I was with our guy Rosie, and he's run thousands of rounds. He bought his 10-round Wilson Combat 45 ACP magazines 30 years ago, and he's been running them ever since, and they still work, no problem.
Well, 10 rounds you got to realize when you're talking about pressure on the spring and you're talking about how much of the magazine is in the grip, which can affect the geometry and some various things that could cause hiccups. A 10 round is going to be less apt to do it than a 15 as well.
100%.
So, yeah.
And again, they're Wilson Combat mags. Do not, when you're getting these magazines, you go with someone like Wilson Combat or Chip McCormick and things that have had years and years of use behind it and reputation. True. You don't go with the thing that was on sale because they were selling 10 of them.
Pro Mag.
I wasn't going to say it, but yes.
I will.
You don't go with stuff like that because this is not where you want to save money because you're not going to be saving money. You're going to induce failures with companies that make bad mags, and that might give you great practice at the range, but it could be the worst thing you could possibly do. So yeah, Wilson Combat and Chip McCormick are the ones with extra, and Metgar are all top of the line what you use if you're serious about carrying this thing for EDC.
I view Metgar as bottom of the top of the line.
Yeah.
And the reason is Metgar, a lot of folks don't know this, but Metgar actually makes the factory magazines for a whole lot of different firearms out there. And we all know factory magazines and issues that can come of those, right? So Chip McCormick and Wilson Combat, Chip McCormick and Wilson Combat, both, Wilson probably being my favorite of the two, they're absolute top tier.
Yep.
But at a minimum, is what I would say. At a minimum, Metgar.
And the reason I brought Metgar up is because it is OEM. It is a factory magazine for so many. But you also have to know the reputation of that mag. It depends on which 1911 you carry, whether they. But anyway, yeah, I think those are the three I would start with. And yes, go with the good one. Wilson Combat is, I believe, from everything everyone's ever told me, the top of the line.
But if you like the 1911 design, and if you already have the 1911, this is one thing. If you're looking into one, this is something totally different. Nowadays, and even what I was talking about, and I've still got it, but I've got the pair of Warthog. That's 11+1. And you're talking about in a very, very, very small frame. It's 11+1 because it's double stack. So there are 2011s, right? 2311s. There are variants out there that allow you the greater magazine capacity while still staying with a 1911-ish style as far as manual of arms and controls and safeties and trigger feels and other things that you value in that 1911, right? The look, whatever it might be. And there are options out there. So, if you're undecided, like I said, if you've got the 1911, carry what you got. That's cool. If you're weighing it out, like I want to do this, and you are leaning toward that 1911 style, there are options nowadays. Modern options, I guess. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, heck yeah. We are living in the golden age. Take advantage of it.
You're not wrong. So the next one is DJ saying, asking Snob if he's going to Thunder on the Prairie, which is just barely a thin state away from where Snob is. So we'll find out. Or does do we know? And then do you guys have anything to talk about Thunder on the Prairie coming up in a few weeks?
No, I wish I was going out there. Really do. Have fun, guys. I enjoy going to different shoots, trying out different things, and that sounds like fun. When I was doing the Kevin Dixie Train and Learn in 2019, was that 2019? Yeah. Corinne Mosher was there, and she had the John Wick gun. She had that Glock 34 Combat Master from Terran Tactical. So going to these things are a lot of fun if you can make your way out to them, because they'll let you touch things that you've not seen before, or you've only seen in movies or on TV or on YouTube videos. So get out there and participate, man. A lot of people often ask, well, how do you know these things? How do you meet these people? By going to things. By going to things. Take some time. I mean, if you're looking at this as a hobby, get involved a little bit. Make a road trip for some of the stuff. It'll be worth it.
That makes me think the Tuesday show should be about travel or something. Have we done travel since Shot Show?
I mean, yeah. I went to Arizona.
No, I'm thinking like as topics for the show. I meant.
Oh, should you make? I thought you said, did you guys travel since Shot Show?
So, well, we're at an hour. We don't have any other questions that I can see. My mags are Kimber and Wilson Combat right now. The 15 is a fake Colt mag from Pro Mag. So everything they just said applies. And I think we'll start wrapping it up then. So it's been about an hour. Our goal is to give you our experience and some insight, just to chat a little bit, and also it's an excuse for us to get together and chat each week off air. So if you'd like to have a question answered, or if you well, that's pretty much what we're here for. So if you want to answer a question answered, go to askgunquestions.com and feel free to leave a question there. Like I say, we're not grabbing your email addresses. It's not any kind of scam. You don't have to leave a name or nothing. We don't even bring any of that up. I don't think ever. Maybe once, just to see if it was somebody we knew or something. But essentially, it's just a way for people to ask questions so that we can use that as a way to chat and to talk about guns, because we're not about to just talk about guns because they're telling us to, or in reaction to stuff, whatever. We're going to talk about stuff intentionally. So give us something to talk about and we'll talk about it. I'll shut up, let Clover and Tony talk about what they've got going on, and then we'll be back in a week. So let's do it in reverse order. Tony, how about you tell us what's happening?
All right. Right now, I'm setting up a Gifts and Go to figure out how we can actually get funding toward us, going towards 2A4E and the mission we have. Trying to get raise funds for the trip down to Train and Learn in New Orleans. Can't wait to get down there and see my peoples. Also,
we have changed. You mean St. Louis, right?
St. Louis. I'm sorry, I don't even know what I said. Yeah, going to St. Louis. We have Diversity Shoot coming up Thursday. If you want to check out and purchase a ticket, you can go directly to Eventbrite. Type in Tony Simon. I'll come up, or the second is for everyone. It should pop up eventually. It is not something that runs smoothly. I found out when I was using the app. But yeah, look for me. You can find me, or you can just go to diversityshoot.com and click the link and go directly there and purchase your ticket to Thursday's event, which is at Recor Range in Monroe, New Jersey. Can't wait to get out there. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Second for Everyone, on Facebook at The Second is for Everyone, and Simon Says Train on Instagram. So please do that. Follow us. Also, listen to the Second is for Everyone podcast, available in your favorite podcast app, or listen to us on Tuesday at Firearms Radio Network's Gun and Gear Review podcast. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in, man. And then Clover, what do you got coming up? You're done with your season, huh?
Oh yeah. If I don't have 1 million subscribers by the end of the month, then I'm quitting 2A. So I've made that decision. So
totally understandable.
It is what it is,
You'd have gotten 1 million if you had popped on Thursday night, but I was busy.
I did pimp out what I could, but I really didn't know what you were going to talk about. So I was like, I know Tony had some events. I'm not real sure what's going on, but he was going to talk about them. So go check out diversityshoot.com. And I tried, but
thanks, man. I appreciate it, because I had a podcast I was supposed to be on 1 hour before the event, like from 5 to 6. Because that's the only time they record. So I had to get to the range early, do my setup, and have everything ready to go 4 or 5 o'clock, and then kick my event off on time. And things got all sideways, and I actually forgot to check in real quick with you at 8:30, and just give like a 5-minute what was up, and then bounce out. And then I was doing shotgun with Charlie at 9 o'clock, immediately at the end of the event. So I was trying to do a lot of things. A lot of balls were in the air, man. So I apologize.
That's all good.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we're wrapping it up. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.